There are faces that define an era, and then there's Christy Turlington, the kind of beauty that feels less designed, more discovered. From the first shoot, photographers spoke of her like a miracle that didn't need lighting.
People was like, the most beautiful girl is coming to be the cover. And we were completely gobsmacked when you walked in. No makeup, no hair, still the most beautiful thing we had ever seen.
16 years old, silent, focused, almost monastic. Even Naomi Campbell would later say she was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
The one, the only, the most beautiful woman in the world, to me, and to many others I know, Christy Turlington Burns.
But Christy never treated beauty like a gift. When silence tells the truth better than anything rehearsed, trying how to stay human in an industry that rewards perfection, but punishes peace. That restraint, the refusal to perform, made her unforgettable.
Tell a story. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes it's what you want people to think.
But where does a calm like that come from, when everything around you worships noise? Before there was fashion, there was faith. Not the kind preached in churches, but the kind taught quietly at home. Christy grew up in a house where kindness mattered more than beauty.
To stay with a grandmother, to be spoiled, actually. Just to have time away from my sisters and to be treated a little bit different, or to be treated as a, I wanted to be an only child, which I'm sure most kids do at some point. But I didn't have that feeling in my family of being special at all.
And discipline wasn't punishment, it was gratitude. Her parents both worked for Pan Am. Structure, manners, expectation, but never ego. That balance became her foundation, restraint without repression. Her mother, Maria, was her compass, soft-spoken, steady, present. When work took Christy away, that calm traveled with her, woven into every choice she made. And somewhere, that quiet was about to be tested. She was 14 when the lens paused on her. Not glamour, not destiny.
Stock photos of them for their headshots, I guess. And in between shots of them,
Awkward. Braces, flyaway hair, a body still deciding what to be. So why did the camera stay? Work began small. After-school shoots, early flights, homework in airport chairs. She kept her schedule like a promise. Finish school first, then see how far this goes. While others sprinted toward the myth of Paris, she learned something quieter. You don't have to live inside the noise to belong to the world that makes it. That calm became her signature before it became her look. And when fashion finally pulled harder than routine, she was ready. Not because the world insisted, but because she decided. By 17, she was defining the runways. Versace, Chanel, Calvin Klein, all who counted. In an era built on excess, she was the calm in the storm, a contradiction draped in silk. The others burned bright, loud, unmissable. Christy was the opposite. Soft power, steady rhythm, grace without noise. How does someone stay untouched in a world built on being seen? Naomi Campbell once said, "She didn't need to be everywhere. That was Christy, present, but never hungry." Naomi's words still echo through that decade, because Christy's beauty didn't scream, it stayed. And maybe that's why she lasted longer than most. When George Michael released Freedom, 5 women became mythology overnight. Naomi, Linda, Cindy, Tatiana, and Christy.
Show, and we had done the George Michael Freedom video around that time as well. So there was just a lot of excitement around the group of my peers and I being in the shows. And
that song wasn't just a soundtrack, it was a coronation. Models weren't muses anymore, they were movement. She stood there, mouthing freedom, but for her it wasn't rebellion, it was reflection. Because what others chased in fame, she searched for in balance. Behind the flashbulbs, she stayed grounded, still commuting between shoots and school, still handwriting essays on long flights. She refused to move to Paris full-time, choosing New York instead, where her books and her life were waiting. Maybe that's what made her rare. The girl who could leave the runway and still recognize herself in the mirror. Photographers called her a painting that breathes. Designers called her unbreakable light. And for years, that light moved through every lens, never fading, never forcing. Because even peace has a price. And for Christy, it would soon come, signed in ink, Calvin Klein. At 19, she signed the kind of deal every model dreamed of. an exclusive contract with Calvin Klein.
My new apartment, and I'm 18, 19 years old, and I start to work for Calvin Klein under an exclusive contract, which I was thrilled about. Calvin was,
and we were not. And we were not.
We meaning people in the fashion industry.
The fashion.
It was definitely premature. It was like I hadn't really yet been on my own. I wasn't tired yet at all. Like, I was into it, but this opportunity came up and it was a really great opportunity. So I signed this exclusive contract, and then suddenly I couldn't work with all of my friends. I couldn't do all of the cool.
For the first time, her freedom came with clauses. No haircuts, no other brands. Every image approved, every appearance accounted for. To the world, she was the face of simplicity. To herself, she was a name inside parentheses. How much control can you surrender before it stops being success? Calvin adored her. Elegance made human. Everything his brand wanted to say without words. But exclusivity is a cage, even when it's carved in glass.
And we had to break up, but we renegotiated the contract. So I still worked for Calvin.
Meaning
for the fragrance.
you and Calvin, not you and the boyfriend.
Me and Calvin. Yeah, me and Calvin. No, it
When
took
you
me a
say
lot
that
longer to break up.
You're not allowed to. When you say you're not allowed to cut your hair when you have a contract, can you, for people that are listening, explain what that really is about?
I kind of liken it to...
The shoots were immaculate, the images timeless. And yet, something in her began to shrink. She missed the chaos, the camaraderie of shows, the energy of photographers like Mizell and Lindbergh, the laughter backstage with Naomi and Linda. Now every picture looked perfect, but every day felt the same. Then one morning, she did what no one in her position dared. She cut her hair, a few inches of rebellion, a quiet revolt that broke $1 million contract. She was terrified and free
about it, but I also did it knowing that I kind of wanted to get out of that contract. But the cool thing was I still worked for Calvin, and actually with that new haircut, I still did his campaign the next season and opened his show the next season. So it didn't really impact anything there, but I was free, which was great. And then I really had, and this is a very long-winded answer to what you asked about.
No,
industry that, because by then it's like 1990. And in 1990, I kind of went back in full force and was so excited. We got to do the shows, which again, I really had done a little bit of in New York, but I hadn't really done it in Europe. So suddenly, the Versace show, and we had done the George Michael Freedom video around that time as well. So there was just a lot of excitement around the group of my peers and I being in the shows, and it was really, really fun. And then I just kind of burned out again. Like, I did that fully for about 3 years or so. And then I was like, okay, now I'm kind of ready to have more of a balanced life and to go back to New York and kind of create more of a home for myself and maybe think about going back to school.
The legal noise came first. Negotiations, penalties, press whispers. But when the dust settled, she walked back into Calvin's studio with that short hair and opened his next show. He kept her anyway.
Still worked for Calvin, and actually with that new haircut, I still did his campaign the next season and opened his show the next season. So it didn't really impact anything there, but I was free.
Because even rebellion in Christy's hands looked like grace. That moment wasn't scandal, it was definition. Her control wasn't loud, it was deliberate. The power to stay calm while walking away. She didn't storm out of fashion. She simply turned the page. Contracts would come and go, but the sense of agency stayed. A lesson she'd carry into the next chapter of her life. When the spotlight dimmed and the classroom light flickered on, the flash faded, but her focus didn't. Most models leave school behind. Christy went back. While her peers built brands, she enrolled at NYU. Philosophy, literature, the questions she'd postponed for runways. She followed her inner needs to stay true to herself.
In 1994, and I converted it fully. And that also was part of my kind of grounding and getting back to like having my home feel really like, New York was my home, but really creating the life that I now would say is home. And in that time, I was back in school full time, and I felt like so excited by what I was doing for myself. that I was like, I'm doing this in 4 years. I'm not going slow. I've got so much time to make up. Like I felt like I was behind.
How old are you at this point that you're making up time for?
25, almost 26. But for a student, like everybody was 8 years or so younger than me. Like I was, old for a student. But I also never felt.
At 25, she'd already been on every cover that mattered, but the applause had started to echo. In the silence between shoots, she began to ask herself, what if beauty wasn't the point at all? In college, she was no longer Christy Turlington the model. She was just another student in the front row, hand-raised, coffee cold, writing papers at 2 a.m. while the city slept. She later said she felt guilty, watching her mother return to college after raising 3 daughters, seeing her sister graduate before her.
Podcast, going back to school and writing a paper and doing all my work on computer and learning how to, cite my sources and, all those things, it was really challenging just having been out of school for 8 years. And so I kind of loved that. I loved that every semester I'd have to stand up and say my name again and talk about what I was interested in. And I loved it. I was a kind of classic return student, which means that you're like front row, hand up. I read every single thing they put in front of me because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. But of course, everybody else is shopping and planning their next vacation.
It wasn't competition, it was reflection. A realization that education wasn't escape, but gratitude. She didn't need to reinvent herself. She needed to understand herself. Every lecture hall became a mirror she'd never stood in before. Every essay, another act of control, this time not over her image, but her mind. And yet, as she stepped off that stage, the world outside still wanted her face. Calvin, Maybelline, Vogue. They called again, because she'd learned something the industry never taught. Fame fades, discipline stays. In 2003, she gave birth to her daughter Grace, and nearly lost her life doing it. A postpartum complication, sudden and severe, turned delivery into survival. That moment changed everything. She had spent decades perfecting control, over image, over time, over silence. But this was something she couldn't command. It wasn't fashion that saved her. It was access. Hospitals, doctors, a safety net most women never see.
Personally experienced a postpartum complication. I hemorrhaged after the birth of my daughter Grace, who was born in 2003. And that experience really illuminated not only maternal mortality here in the United States.
And when she realized how many didn't have that, she couldn't look away. That realization became Every Mother Counts, a global organization she founded to make childbirth safer for women everywhere. What happens when a supermodel decides that impact is the new fame? Not a charity, a mission, not a name on a board.
Yeah, Every Mother Counts has really been my main job for the last almost 15 years. And we have partners around the world that are like directly providing services for moms and pregnant people in the US and East Africa. And
Every Mother Counts is a nonprofit dedicated to making pregnancy and childbirth safe, respectful, and equitable for every mother everywhere.
A woman in the field, running marathons, visiting clinics, meeting mothers who risk their lives for what others take for granted.
Every race that I run and every mile that I run is all about Every Mother Counts.
She raised funds, awareness, and questions about equality, healthcare, and the quiet violence of neglect. Her beauty had once sold perfume. Now, it sold survival. What does it mean to use the same spotlight that built you to light the way for someone else?
To help the foundation early on, she decided to run.
Running Tanzania this year was a big deal just because it was so far away from home. Running in London is a big deal.
From Tanzania to Guatemala to rural America, she ran for mothers who couldn't, literally. Her advocacy wasn't posed. It was physical, lived, sweaty, real. So when she runs through New York streets, across Kenyan plains, it's not for glory. It's for every mother, every woman. Christy Turlington never needed reinvention. She simply aged into relevance. In a culture obsessed with comebacks, she never left. She just changed her reason for being seen. Designers still call. Museums still display her image, and her silhouette remains unmistakable, poised, centered, calm. When younger models talk about balance, about boundaries, about saying no, they're echoing a language Christy started speaking decades ago. She taught a generation that power doesn't have to shout. It can whisper and still move worlds.
I don't feel like people treat me that way either, to be honest. So it's so weird when I do hear my peers say that. It's very kind. And I don't take it lightly, but I can't, it's hard for me to see that or to understand that. And I don't feel badly about myself. I just don't see that.
And maybe that's her real legacy, that a woman who began as a symbol of perfection used that image to prove that perfection.
I think that there's this amazing awareness that you had around the care that you had and how lucky you were to have that care. And, we, I think as a world, don't take care of moms the way that we should.
The camera still finds her, of course, but now it captures something else. Not beauty, not fame, but freedom. The woman who once defined the look of a generation now defines what it means to outgrow it.
In education, she continues to grow, to take what she already knows and put it to service in the work of what she wants to achieve.